The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta holiday market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
Hi, I'm Christina Dobre, and I'm a director of photography based in New York City.
Hello, and welcome to Art, the podcast where we get up close and personal as we get to know women from around the world of visual arts. I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Season 2, Episode 47. My guest this week is the American cinematographer Christina Dobre. Christina was drawn to cinematography through her combined interests in storytelling, photography, and psychology. She says she strives to create emotionally driven imagery that helps us to feel, to connect, and to heal. Her first professional production as a crew member was the 2013 drama Creed Moria, about a teenage girl growing up in a dysfunctional family. It was a story, she says, that resonated with her. Christina was born in New Jersey in 1995, the middle of 3 children. She has an older sister and a younger brother. Her father, Dumitru, was an immigrant from the communist state of Romania. He emigrated to the US as a teenager and eventually became a public service electrician. Her mother, Donna, is a nurse and instilled in Christina diverse values which have shaped her personality. An early interest in photography that she picked up from her father began the foundation to her career, and by the time she attended Pennsbury High School in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, Christina knew that storytelling through film was her calling. In 2019, she graduated Fordham University in New York with a BA in Communications with a focus on film studies. Her determination to break into the industry was soon rewarded with a variety of productions, from commercials to music, including The King for Sarah Kingsley, and narrative shorts like At Night that was screened at an Academy qualifying festival. Christina also advocates for women in camera through online education and by sharing her experiences as a woman in camera with her filmmaking community on social media. Christina was accepted in the ASC Vision Mentorship Program for 2024 to 2025. She lives with her partner, Johan Boit, in New York. Christina, welcome to the podcast. Well, podcast land is somewhere is your happy land. You enjoy podcasting.
I love talking to people. I love understanding other people and just being able to sit down and have, a depthful conversation together. I feel like I don't get to always have that these days.
Well, let's see how deep we can go, because on this show, I know you've listened to it, we do go back. We do go deep. We do go back.
I love that.
So as long as you're open to that, this should be a lot of fun.
I'm very open to it. I'm excited.
Well, you mentioned that loving stories. Of course, you're a storyteller, but I also read somewhere you love psychology. You love the human element of all of this and of the work you do. Where does that fascination come from?
That's a great question. I think it came from growing up. I had such an emotional mother who was always so caring about other people. And I grew up with her taking care of her own mother who had MS and struggled with other mental health issues. So I was surrounded by women who were trying to understand themselves and better themselves and understand the world and cared so much about other people. So it was instilled in me was just an urge to understand myself more. And I struggled with that growing up. So being able to see my mom, like taking care of my grandma and my great grandma, and really wanting to understand, why we struggle with mental health issues and how to feel more stable in my household inspired me to really want to dig deeper into myself and to others around me to understand why we struggle with these issues and how we can talk to each other and how we can communicate better and love each other more. So that's kind of where it all stemmed from.
Well, your mother clearly was a very careful, caring woman, I should say. Mm-hmm. Donna, she was a nurse. Or is she still a nurse?
She's still a nurse. She's a nurse case manager, so she works from home now. But for most of my life, she actually worked in labor and delivery with women delivering babies.
So, as they say in Italy, molto simpatico.
Mm-hmm.
And
incredibly empathetic.
Yeah, very empathetic. And so what was childhood like for you then, growing up in that environment? Do you think you immediately developed those sort of nurturing, caring traits as yourself as a child?
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta holiday market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
I definitely do. My family household was not always stable. It was definitely a rocky household between my parents and my father. But I'm very grateful for my mother and her empathetic nature. And I definitely think that growing up with her, seeing how she cared for the people that she took care of at the hospital, how much she cared for women, how much she cared for her mother, who struggled with MS and passed away a few years ago due to it. And also my grandmother, who was like the matriarch of our house, of our whole family, and often would take care of us when we were little because my great-grandmother would take care of us while my grandmother was sick. And then my mother would take care of her mother. And I could just see these generations of women taking care of each other. And that definitely instilled in me this empathetic side to care for our loved ones and people around us.
Tell me where the name comes from, Dobre. Interesting name.
Dobre is actually Romanian. My dad is actually an immigrant from Bucharest, Romania, and came from him.
And so his family is still over there?
So his mother and father passed away a few years back now, but I believe we still have some extended family in Romania, which I haven't met, but I would still love to go there.
Oh, you haven't been yet? That's a trip on your bucket list, is it?
Yes, I went there when I was 2, my parents say, but I have no recollection of it. But I would love to visit and see some extended family and see the country my dad came from.
And what about your mother? Where did she come from?
My mom was born in Piscataway, New Jersey, so pretty close to here in New York City, and grew up in New Jersey with her mother, who was a single mother.
So you didn't move very far then, because you were born in New Jersey in 1995. You said you don't really have a hometown, but you've moved pretty much around that same area then, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York.
Yes. Yes, I've stayed on the East Coast for most of my life, my entire life. I studied abroad briefly in college, but yeah, I've been here on the East Coast, and I've had times in my life where I thought about moving to the West Coast, specifically in high school. But yeah, I've stayed around here so far for various different reasons.
And in terms of the career, then, you obviously prefer to be on the East Coast for your work, then, because it's a different environment, isn't it, to the LA film scene?
Yeah, I think for work right now, I got incredible tip when I graduated high school from a director that I first worked with on my very first feature film, who is now like a dear friend to me now still, who said, like, you have connections in New York, start in New York. you're here, you have family here, start here. And then if you want to go somewhere else, you can. And that kind of jump started my life here in New York. And I've been here ever since. And I love New York. I love the city. I love the people. I love being close to my family. I love the work that I get here and the indie nature of it. Mm-hmm. But I'm also open to seeing where my work takes me. I love traveling and will always travel for work. And if a job opportunity arises, maybe I'd go to Los Angeles. But right now, there's nothing pulling me there. Aside from nature, maybe.
Right. Let's rewind a little bit then, because I always like to know what your childhood was like. What your earliest memories were like growing up in Jersey. Because you have a younger brother. So were you close to him?
I am very close to my brother. Mm-hmm. He's only 2 years younger than me.
And you're in the middle, and you have an older sister too.
Yes, exactly.
So what was that like, being the middle child?
Oh, being the middle child was hard. In my family, sometimes my brother and my sister would gang up on me. So I would sometimes be the odd one out sometimes in fights, which was really hard. I kind of felt like I needed to be on my own and be independent and figure my world out. And I kind of went outwards of my family to my friend groups to really find comfort and connection and fun. But my earliest childhood memories are filled with just being outside and playing with my siblings and being in nature a lot in New Jersey.
What is the age difference between Michael and Alexa and you?
Alexa is 4 years older than me, and my younger brother, Dimitri, is 2 years younger.
So what kind of things were you up to then? I mean, when you go out in nature, I mean, I did this myself as a child, playing with my older brother. But it's very different growing up in Jersey to where I grew up. Tell me a little bit about what that was, or what kind of activities you were up to in nature. Were you building dams on streams and tree houses? And what was that like?
Oh, we would do so many things. I was in my younger years, I was in Hopewell, New Jersey, and that's a beautiful area of New Jersey. And I can remember being out in the mud and playing in the mud and stomping around in it with my older sister, and my brother finding out and telling my dad, and just climbing trees, building forts out in the woods. I remember playing manhunt with friends, or even ding dong ditch in the neighborhood, which is a different time. And just being outside all day long with friends, exploring and looking in streams, looking for salamanders, swimming in the streams, anything we could do outside.
Would your siblings get you in trouble?
I would have to say they haven't that many times. That was one, thankfully we had our backs usually, but that was the one time my brother did tattletale, but they wouldn't usually get us in trouble. We'd usually have each other's back.
So were the pets involved? Did you have dogs?
We did have many pets growing up. We
horses? Did you
various dogs? I wish I had horses. I love horses, but no, unfortunately we didn't have any horses in New Jersey, but I did get to ride them at camp every summer, which is fun. But we had dogs and cats, mostly dogs, and some cats.
And how about sports then, Christina? Were you sporty at school?
I loved sports growing up, yeah. When I was younger years, I did soccer and basketball, and then also gymnastics for a very long time. And then middle school, I stopped doing gymnastics and had some friends that did competitive cheerleading in my area in Pennsylvania. And I wanted to be a part of the clan and also enjoyed the gymnastics part of it. So switched and did competitive cheerleading from middle school up until junior year of high school.
Were your parents sporty, or what kind of interest did they have and that they would encourage you to take part in?
My parents were very sporty. My dad always would play soccer with us and would pass around the soccer ball with us and play different games in the streets. And he always loved riding bikes and was very active and hiking whenever we could. And then my mother, on her side, she grew up doing gymnastics her whole life too. So she also did dance as well. So they were both very active people and tried to keep us active when we were younger in sports and staying, part of communities. And yeah.
So what kind of things did you do with each of your parents then?
On the sports end?
Well, on any of the activities, sometimes, with the mother, you might be cooking or learning to sew or doing domestic things or going golfing. What kind of things did you actively do with each of your parents that you remember fondly now?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me actually take a second to think about it. With my mother, actually, growing up, we would love going thrifting together. We were always very money conscious growing up, and something we loved to do would be going to a thrift store and kind of finding the gems that we felt expressed ourselves through clothing. And it was always a fun activity because she gave us freedom to pick what we wanted, and she'd show us her clothes, and we'd do all like a fashion show when we all got home. And that was something I always loved. And other than that, she was a beautiful singer. I'd go to karaoke with her when I got a bit older, and we'd always sing at home and practice songs. And sometimes she'd do singing competitions where we got to go and watch her sing. So very artistically based on my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, he would, let me try to remember actually. My dad loved cars and still loves cars. So growing up, a big memory from my father's side is we'd go to a junkyard that he co-managed back in the day. And we got to run around the junkyard with him and look at cars and look at parts and help him like fixing up cars. And that was a big part of my life when I was younger. And then also he would also love to go hiking at Bear Mountain in New York and go sledding and take us sledding and riding our bikes in the canals whenever we could. So, yeah, those are some things.
A whole cross-section there of activities and things. And you mentioned the music and your mum being a singer. Now, did that mean that you learnt to sing and learn to play musical instruments?
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
I did learn to sing. Yeah, I actually really developed a love for singing myself through my mom. And I still love singing now. Whenever we can, we go to karaoke. And on the musical instrument end, I wish I learned more. I did take piano when I was younger, but back then I didn't want to dedicate my time to it. I wish I stuck it through in second grade, but I did not do it. But I did learn to sing. And sometimes I would do singing competitions with my mom.
So what's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, my go-to karaoke song is actually Believe by Cher.
Could we get a recording of that would go with the podcast? That would be super fun.
Maybe if I go to karaoke, I'll record it for you.
Would you? I might hold you to that, Christina. That's awesome.
Honestly, ask me. Next time my mom's in town, we'll go.
Do you like the idea of singing in a choir or performing in some way?
I actually love performing. Yeah, I was actually, now that I'm an adult, thinking of ways that I could join performance in either singing or maybe like probably mostly singing in a way that's less like doing it for a career like I do in my creative craft as cinematographer, and do it more just for fun. So I was thinking of maybe joining a choir or something like that.
There you go. We may have to revisit this conversation, in a couple of years, Christina, and see what you've been doing.
Yeah. I took some singing like lessons growing up, and I miss it. It's a part of my creative world that I haven't tapped into for a long time.
But it's lovely to have that because you never know when, we can draw on it,
Yeah, I agree.
You never know. You might get called upon at a wedding.
I will not. That's so funny. Maybe it's karaoke. I could do it. Low stakes.
Well, most of the cinematographers that we've had here on the show, Christina, they've invariably picked up a camera when they were a child, and that's where the bug began. What was it for you?
That's a good question. I actually didn't know what cinematography was only until my college years. So, but thinking back, I was always a visual child. I remember when social media became a big thing, I had a camera and I had one from my father, who always was a big photographer growing up and took videos of us on our little camcorders and always had like the highest tech camera stuff. I remember being loving taking photos and being able to share with people online when I was younger and social media was starting to arise. So I think for me, cinematography did start through photography as well. But I didn't know that cinematography was a career that I could do for a long time. But I love to share images.
Sharing. So were there any photographers or cinematographers, particularly female cinematographers, that caught your attention or types of film? What genres were you drawn to?
When I was a child, a lot of the films that I gravitated towards were, the Princess Diaries, women in powerful roles, like Legally Blonde, a lot of like happier women succeeding films. I love to watch those. Also loved The Mummy, which was an old one now, but there's a lead actress there who I loved, who was so intelligent and interesting. So I love to watch women on screen. I also loved fantasy films like The Mummy or like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings. Movies that helped me kind of escape sometimes the very tumultuous world I was living in as a child, and that I could see myself in and inspire me to be creative or feel how I was feeling or etc.
Tell me more about the tumultuous world that was affecting you.
Yeah, so my parents both grew up in very difficult situations. My dad came here when he was only 21 to New York City to escape the communist revolution in Romania. And he came here as a refugee. So he comes with a lot of trauma and baggage on that end. And then on my mom's side, she grew up with a single mother, very young, who had her very, very young, like 16, back in the day when that was not acceptable. And really struggled growing up with a lot of different mental health issues. And I don't blame them for that upbringing. But the tumultuous side of my childhood came with my parents fighting often and not in a healthy, communicative way. And my father had a very angry, controlling side to him. So I was lodged in the middle of that chaos.
How did you three children cope with it collectively?
I think if we let me think about it. In different ways. My sister took the brunt of it as she was older and was very outspoken against my father and my mother and was very rebellious when she graduated high school. And I think I tried to be the peacemaker for most of my life, just to try to find peace within the chaos. But as I got older, I became more outspoken too. And then my brother kind of tried to like hide from it a bit more. So we kind of all dealt with it in different ways when we were children and just tried to please our parents and not get in the way sometimes.
What was your escape?
My escape was my friends outside of school and, the worlds that I could watch on the movies and the TV shows I watched.
So do you think that informed your taste in films and TV?
I definitely think so. When I was younger, I also dealt with it by numbing myself and not feeling my emotions. And that was really hard for me in my early middle school, high school years, because I felt very disconnected to how I feel. I didn't really understand how I felt. It took years of therapy. Thankfully, I got to get therapy when I was younger and now to really understand how I feel. But I can recognize when I was younger, movies helped me to feel those feelings, even if they were scary to feel them in my real life. I could see myself in the character and cry, and maybe I was too afraid to do that in my real life. So movies have always helped me heal in a way and also escape from my reality. So it's definitely informed my work now of trying to create those healing films for other people.
You chose at university to study film communications with film studies. So at what point then, and during those formative years, those difficult years, Christina, did you decide that this might be a career path for you?
Yeah, to give you some backstory, I actually applied to be an actor my senior year of high school at a university and didn't end up getting in. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to take 2 years off and see if filmmaking is the world that I want to work in. I'm not sure if I want to be an actor. I'm not taking it seriously, but I'll try. And I worked on my first feature film in 2013 and fell in love with production, but I still didn't know where my place was. And then 2015 came around and I said I wanted to start school and start studying this because I did see the true love for it. And then it came about like sophomore year where video started to become bigger in the world and I got exposed to video. And I was also shooting a lot of the short films of the students in my school. So I kind of naturally fell into that role.
What year did you graduate?
In 2019.
So whilst you were a student then, how was that being unpacked for you in terms of the interests that you were developing and what was really making you tick and get out of bed in the morning and really floating your boat thinking, this is something I really could do and make a career out of?
Cinematography?
So was it cinematography? What else was it, though? Was it just, were you just single-minded for cinematography? This is the path I'm going to take because you decided that acting was not going to happen. So talk a little bit more about all the things that were converging, Christina, at that point when you had to make, major life decisions, really, towards the path you were going to take.
Right. Okay. So I started out wanting to do acting, but I didn't really have anyone in the world of filmmaking. And I didn't really understand what it really meant to be an actor and all of the craft that goes behind it. But I still tried. And then once I fell in love with film production and what it looks like to make a narrative film, that sparked my love for working on set and working with creative people to create these stories that I loved growing up. And then once I got to college, I fell in love with understanding media and understanding how much of an impact these films have on us and why they have an impact and the reasons why other filmmakers have chosen to display different themes or different cinematography looks or movements in their films, and how they all work together to create this story that impacts all of us. So it was kind of a gradual build of an initial love for storytelling and then also performance, and then wanting to actually get into the world of production once I was exposed to it, and here in New York and getting on set. And then once I started learning more from teachers and students in my school, I also volunteered for an organization called Film Fatales, which is a nonprofit for women directors. And I got to see and learn from those powerful women creating stories too. It was a slow culmination of being exposed to the world of filmmaking that eventually led me to my love for cinematography. And all along that time, I was doing photography and engaging in social media and sharing on social media with other filmmakers and photographers and being around the photography crowd. It just kind of all lined up because I was trying to find my space in the filmmaking world. And I knew I didn't want to do photography. And cinematography was a beautiful mix of the love I have for production and creating images and creating stories with creative people and the photography aspect.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
How were you personally, having gone through the difficult years as a young adult, as a child, a young adult at home, where did you feel you were? Were you getting more confidence now because you were developing your own more firm interests in taking control of your own life? Because that's the big part, isn't it, about when you're growing up, when you get to college and you're starting to take control of your life. Did you feel that you had got control of your life personally?
I can never say I have control of my personal life. My family is continuously going through stages of stability and instability. But I think I really proved to myself when moving to New York City that I could take care of myself and I can make a name for myself and I can do whatever I want in the world. One thing my family did teach me growing up is my parents always told me that I could be anything I wanted to be, specifically my mom. So I always felt that I could do anything I wanted to do. And I had that confidence within me. So I think moving to New York and moving in with roommates here in New York really proved to myself that I could do anything I wanted to do. And I loved the confidence of the women in filmmaking fighting despite everything that has been against them for decades. So, yes.
So what were the breakthrough productions that you were involved with? What were the big breaks that really were getting your foot in the door?
Well, the first one was a feature film called Creed Moria by a wonderful director named Alicia Slimmer. She is still a very close friend to me. That was a feature film that I got to PA on for about a month. And I was living in Pennsylvania at the time before I moved to New York City. And I would drive from Pennsylvania to New York City every day for about like a month and a half to BA on the set. And it was an unpaid position, volunteer position, but I wanted to do it anyway because I was just wanting to work and I had that drive and energy and passion for it. So Creed Moria was a huge stepping stone in my realization of my career. And to this day, I'm very grateful for the experiences on that set. And then I took a pause working in production while I was in college. I didn't have too many connections working on set, and I wasn't sure how to get my foot in the door yet. And then the next big step I had was senior year. A friend of mine, Max, he already graduated a year before me, and he was working at a production company in New York City. And I believe I went to a talk back at the school, and he was there. And I asked him like how I can get my foot in the door and how I can PA. And he offered to bring me to PA on a few of the sets that they were doing for that production company. And that gave me more on-set experience right at the end of my senior year. And then from there, I believe I met a woman from the Film Fatales or nonprofit organization I was working with. She was an AC in the camera department. Her name's AJ. She's an awesome city camera operator right now. And she exposed me to the world of being an assistant camera person in the camera department. and how you can work your way up and learn and get paid as you learn in the camera department before you take the leap to become a director of photography. So that was a huge stepping stone and realization to me that I can get paid and make a living as a freelancer working in camera department and learn from these women and men in the camera department before I take the leap to become a DP finally. So that was a huge stepping stone to give me confidence to be like, okay, I can actually get paid and pay rent, and I can do what I love and learn about what I'm doing and what I eventually want to do and learn this craft. So those were some 3 key pivotal points in my career to getting here.
Just reading up about Creed Moria before we hit record, I saw that was a family story, wasn't it? About an incident, and probably resonated with you because it was about a teenager finding the courage.
It did resonate with me.
Yeah, and did the type of films that you were starting to make in those early days then really shape your thinking because you wanted to pull together your interests, the psychology, the human interest, the storytelling, all of these ideas were resonating, were starting to pull together to develop your career in a way that it seems you've continued to take throughout your career now, bringing all of your interests together. Are you still on the road you want to be?
I am still on the road I want to be on. Yeah, I'm very grateful for where I'm at in my path. And I definitely think, especially Creed Moria, has shaped my view of cinematography. I got to watch how they created the scenes with that very complicated family dynamic and how they showed that freedom with the teenager in Creed Moria. I got to visually see that in person, and it was incredibly inspiring and it excited me. So it definitely informed my work now, and I'm very excited where I'm at. I realize that this is a long journey and a craft that takes a lifetime to learn and understand and grow in. It's an everyday growing per project, and that's exciting for me. I'm ready for the long journey ahead.
Well, as we know, our life is unscripted, so you're open to change. Then do you feel like secure enough to be flexible, and say if an opportunity in LA came up, you would be able to just up and go and follow your heart?
I think it would have to be the right opportunity, but yes, I'd be open to it. I would want to make sure that my partner would be okay with it and that we'd have a stable place to live over there, and also see how long that would take. But I would be open to it. It would have to be the right opportunity, though.
And are your parents supportive of you? I mean, you mentioned that your mother said you could be anything you wanted to be, but now, were they encouraging when you fled the nest, so to speak, and took the journey that you did? Have they always been supportive of you?
My mom has always been supportive of me. She's been there, right there for me through every cheerleading competition, through every acting lesson or singing lesson, and throughout all of my years. So I'm incredibly grateful for her. My father was not always supportive. He didn't understand the world of filmmaking and didn't understand how I could make money. He's very money oriented and sees that filmmaking is not exactly the career path if you want to become a millionaire. It could be for some people, but not always. So he didn't understand it and did not want me to be a filmmaker for a long time.
How about your grandparents? You mentioned them earlier, and your great-grandparents. Often we bond with one of our grandparents. Was that the case for you?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I bonded with my great-grandmother and my grandmother. I did not have a strong grandfather figure in my life. My dad's father passed away pretty early on, and then my mom's father left her family when she was very young. And now I do talk to him every once in a while, but she barely sees him, and that's a complicated relationship. But I definitely bonded with my grandmother and my great-grandmother. Very strong, incredible women in my life.
What kind of values did they instill in you?
My great-grandmother was just such a loving and caring matriarch of the family. Because my grandmother couldn't watch us as children due to her MS. She was often in the hospital. My great grandmother would watch us and babysit us. So I got to grow up with her, and she was incredibly creative. She was always knitting and making these intricate blankets and cooking this incredible food, and would tell us stories of my great grandfather and the life they had. And she also dealt with a lot of abuse to her family, and she was just a wonderful, strong human up until her last days. Always very opinionated on what she thought. And that always influenced me to speak my mind. Same with my grandmother. Her name's Dorothy. My great-grandmother's name's Irene. Dorothy, she was an activist her entire life. She was a single mother in a time when you were incredibly looked down on in the 60s, and fought against it and got a college education despite it, and raised my mother to be an independent, fierce woman. And she always talked about her times growing up fighting for women's rights and like being a part of those movements back then. And that's what I grew up hearing. And it always inspired me to speak my mind as a woman and not put up with shit and fight for what you believe in.
Well, that brings me nicely to my next question, how politics and religion of your youth and your childhood has shaped you.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one. This is a big question. A complicated question. But growing up, my mother raised us Christian in a Christian church. My dad was an atheist, another area of conflict. And I have memories growing up in the Christian church in actually a very sweet community. And I think it instilled in me a lot of great values. There are many I don't agree with now. I don't identify as a Christian now. I would say I'm agnostic. And there's many things growing up that I did not agree with now that I reflect on. But she wanted us to have some sort of structure. So she brought us to Sunday school and to be a part of the community in church. And I was around a lot of loving, sweet people. But as I got older, I did not align with a lot of the patriarchal and misogynistic things that went along with all that. And some of the ideas that she would express from the Bible, I definitely don't agree with. And that created a lot of conflict in my life. And my sister was always incredibly vocal from a very young age about it too, and pushing up against it. And it created a lot of conflict in our family, aside from the fact that my dad was an atheist and would be pretty abusive about her going to church in general. So that religion was a big topic in my life growing up. Very complicated one. I have really wonderful memories and also some not great memories on religion's end.
And if you were to have your own children, how would you guide them now?
Ooh, that's hard. My partner also grew up in a very strict Christian household too, and does not identify as Christian now. And I would say I would raise my children most likely without religion and give them the opportunity to learn about all religions and have the opportunity to choose for themselves of what they want to align with.
You mentioned your partner, Johan, but he's also a cinematographer. How did you two meet?
I met Johan because I studied abroad in Cape Town, South Africa, sophomore year of college, or junior year. Trying to think back. I think it was sophomore year of college. And I was looking to meet up with more photographers and creatives in Cape Town, coming from New York. Being surrounded by them, I wanted to create with more creatives there, because I was there for about 6 months living with about 20 Americans in this tiny house. And I believe I met him through social media and through various different photography groups around the world during that time. And we met up because I was doing some modeling back then too on social media, which was like a fun side thing I'd love to do. And he picked me up along with my two friends, and we did a fun photo shoot on the beach. And he made incredible images. And from there, we just would hang out every once in a while. He had a car, so he'd pick up me and my friends from our house, and we got to go and explore Cape Town. And he was always so sweet and kind. And we never dated until the end of my study abroad, because neither of us were looking for something like that. And then around a month before, we kind of realized that we had feelings for each other and would go on a few dates. And then from there, it's history. We just kind of fell in love and made it work a long distance for about 4 years until he was able to move here. Mm-hmm.
What age were you then when you were in Cape Town? You were still a teenager?
Oh, no. I was in Cape Town and I was 22.
And so when you came back to the States then, and once you graduated, what were the first opportunities that were paid? Because you mentioned some volunteer work. What were the first really paid grown-up jobs?
The first paid grown-up jobs were second ACing and camera PAing for a commercial company. Someone that I met while I was in college who came and did a commercial for my university. I volunteered to act in it. And then I reached out to him once I graduated to say that I would love to work in camera department. And he offered me the job to camera PA on a commercial. And that was probably one of the, I can't remember the specific ones back then. I feel like the industry was so busy until 2019 and I had so much work. So I can't remember the specific job, but I do remember that those were the very first well-paid jobs that I got to be on set. It's like a commercial.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
And the biggest one was a commercial for the University of Arizona. And I got flown out to Arizona and be a second AC on that, a big commercial for the university. That was one of the biggest jobs I got to work on.
What was the production?
The production is called Real Digital, owned by a really awesome producer, director, Robert Pearson. And the commercial was for the university.
So talk about the cultural influences then. Who was catching your eye in terms of camera work, cinematography, DPs, the people that in the business that you were looking up to? Were you thinking, this is a style I like. This is somewhere where I want to go to?
I think it took me a long time to really sink my feet into the career as a DP. So in my early ages, I was just trying to figure out how to even learn all the technology and the camera gear and the lighting gear, that I often would get so consumed with just learning how to do it right that I wouldn't yet think, how are other people doing it? And how can I be inspired by them yet? But as I started to grow, I was definitely inspired by the women around me who were hiring me, like Barbie Lang. She's a incredible DP here in New York City. And Kat Castro, another incredible female DP here in New York City, just working on their sets. I was very local. I wasn't yet expanding my mind to the DPs out there. I didn't get to go and study DPs in university yet, but I was slowly starting to see what films I resonated with more than others in cinematography, what resonated more than others. And I love films like Parasite, which was shot so beautifully and intentionally. And The Woman King by Polly Morgan. I think one that really inspired me was 13th documentary by Keira Kelly. It was such a powerful documentary and shot so beautifully and emotively. Those are pretty pivotal films. More recently, because I really only jumped to being a DP like 2021. But before that, I was slowly starting to learn, and a long time for me was just overcoming imposter syndrome and not getting so consumed by how to do it right that I could also like think about how do I want to do it. And I think that's been a growing process.
Have you arrived?
I feel like I have. It's continuous. It's a continuous growth because I haven't shot the biggest films that I wanted to shoot yet, and there's still a growth curve between that now where I am now and there. But I definitely feel more myself and more confident in who I am and my voice and my vision and what I like. I can now say more about what I like than back then. I was still kind of lost in learning everything.
What do you read? What floats your boat when it comes to the written page? Do you enjoy reading? Is there something you do for work and for relaxation? And how about writing too? Do you enjoy that part?
I love reading. I don't read as much as I want to, but I tend to gravitate more towards nonfiction. I'm reading a really wonderful book called The Art of Gathering. So I do really enjoy reading. I'm reading a book called The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters by Priya Parker. And it's a book about learning how to meet with each other intentionally. And I love to read books often where I'm learning something. I'm always striving to learn more, to a fault sometimes. So I gravitate a lot towards nonfiction books where I feel like I'm learning from other people who are more knowledgeable than me. But I'm trying to also read more fiction books because sometimes they're fun and it's just exhausting sometimes to be reading like nonfiction all the time. But on the writing end, I don't do that much writing. I have two incredible writers in my family, my younger brother and my sister. And I've always seen them as writers. Though I did do The Artist's Way. I started it a couple years ago and really enjoyed the daily writings that you had to do. I'd like to write more as well. But I wouldn't say I'm a writer.
Maybe there'll be a time for that.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah. Just being more intentional about it.
Let's talk about social media, because you've built yourself quite a following on TikTok and Instagram. And it's something that is intentional, right? This is something that you've really maximized the platform for your own career. And beyond your career, in your spare time, you're reaching out to help others as well. And I know you're also part of the ASC mentoring program. You're a mentee for 2024-25.
Yes.
Talk about all of that and how that all merges together and how you see yourself. What is your perception of yourself and your role using that platform or the platforms of social media?
Great question. To give you some backstory about social media, I was always involved in it and loved to find community through it. I think that was a big part of how I survived growing up, is looking outwards outside my family to find community. So naturally, I really gravitated towards social media growing up to find other filmmakers like me. So in 2020, when everyone was locked down, I jumped on social media to start creating videos about filmmaking and find other filmmakers out there to find community and not feel so lonely. So that was kind of the start of my social media career. And since then, I've had incredible opportunities, and it's kind of acted as like a side income for me and a way for me to connect with other filmmakers in the world and educate and inspire younger filmmakers and filmmakers of all likes at the same time. So it's been a beautiful journey on the social media end. It's helped my career in terms of marketing exposure as an artist. I can get my name out there and my mission out there. And it's also connected me. And I'm very grateful for that. And how they connect and how I see myself is, I really hope that I can be a beacon of hope for younger women filmmakers out there, especially right now, who see themselves going into the filmmaking field and feel scared or unsure of how to get into it because it's a very mysterious industry. I hope I can shed some light on what it's like to work in the field as a a woman filmmaker and help out on that end educationally in any way I can. So that's my main goal on social media. And then for the ASC mentorship program is kind of totally different sometimes for social media, is part of the American Association of Cinematographers. And it's a guild that many cinematographers want to get into at one point in their career. And this year I applied very last second and didn't have high hopes because I had no idea if it was possible that I could get in with the work that I have. And I very gratefully got in. They gave me the chance to get in, and I was paired with an incredible mentor named Alex Dessenhoff. And it's been a really cool experience. It's a very affirming experience so far.
Do you enjoy teaching? Is this something you think you might do in the future, perhaps workshops?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'd want to do any in-person workshops alone. I think maybe I would do it with others. It's a little bit intimidating teaching specific knowledge about camera gear. I think I love to do podcasts and I like to talk about our industry, but sometimes it makes me a little anxious being the most knowledgeable person in the room and educating. And I think that stems from imposter syndrome, but I would be open to it. I think I would be open to it is what I would say. But right now I love creating my educational videos myself and sharing them with the world and answering questions and doing podcasts and working with brands and etc.
Well, as we record this podcast, Christina, we are remembering, and when we spoke about this before we started recording, about a recent situation through camera image that came out of that big festival in Poland recently, and there's some clear misogyny, sexism.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that for those maybe who haven't read the background story to this and why it has erupted in the world of cinematography for women, particularly given the political landscape now that is changing in US politics, which will impact globally. I mean, it does feel as if we're making two strides forward in many industries, not just in cinematography, but particularly given that this industry can be challenging, can be hard for women to get into. I mean, we'd like to think it's improving, but it's still not the easiest pathway for many. It needs a certain type of person. And for women, that isn't always easy. So talk a little bit about the background to that and how you feel this is really impacting where women are in the business now.
It's incredibly infuriating and disappointing to see that post by the head of the Camera Maj Festival. You know, I was always very excited about that festival, and I haven't had the chance to go or have any of my work there, but I'm getting exposed to it more this year than ever. And it's incredibly disappointing to see the head be so misogynistic and unapologetic in the way that he talked about including more women in cinematography in the festival. There have been plenty of women coming out to say that there have not been enough women included in the festival for years, and to equate women's work to devaluing the festival and, you know, destroying the art and the history that they've done there is incredibly damaging language to speak, especially in the current political climate around the world in many countries where women are having to face governments who are taking away their rights and devaluing women in general. So it was just really disappointing to see that this week. It felt very hopeful to see many of the guilds around the world step out against him and speak out against him and tell him why those words are incredibly harmful to our community and show their support for cinematography and women in cinematography and women filmmakers in general. But there's still a lot of work to do, which is hard to realize, but also affirming because
the most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
I've lived that experience on set and seen the misogyny firsthand. And I see men say to me in my comments and in life that, things are equal. So many women are getting jobs, or, maybe they're just not good enough. That's why they're not getting hired. And in some ways, it's like, this is the reality. What he said, there are still many people in our industry that feel that way and in the world. And it's disheartening and it's frustrating to see those women. But it's in some ways affirming to the experiences that we go through on set all the time, because often we don't get to talk about it, or we don't talk about it enough, of how much misogyny we get to deal with on set. So it's very frustrating to see that in our community right now, but I'm very hopeful and grateful for all the men and women who spoke out against it.
Well, if young women that want to get into the business were to read that article, what would you add to it for them? What would be the message that you would give them to take away from it?
I would say that he does not have power over you, and your work is worthy of being shown to the world and being celebrated, and that there's communities around the world who are here to support us, and we're not alone in our fight to make this community and industry more accessible for everyone and equal for everyone. So find your community and find the people that you love to work with, and let's rise together.
So talking about your work, Christina, now, what is it that you're working on right now? What are you looking forward to for 2025?
Right now, I'm working on a really cool fashion film piece for these really beautiful Chinese brands here in New York, fashion brands, clothing and jewelry. I got to partner up with my friend Charlie. She's an incredible director here in New York. And it's a spec shoot that her and I brainstormed together and created. So we're both self-financing. But I wanted to create more things this fall. So this is one of the projects we've been producing, and we're shooting on Wednesday, which is very exciting. It has a very Wong Kar-wai, Fallen Angels aesthetic. And we'll be running around the streets of Chinatown creating beautiful imagery there. And there'll be scenes on the beach at sunrise. So that's my most recent project that I'm coming up shooting on Wednesday, which is very exciting. And then looking to the future for 2025, I have a few really awesome short films that I'm collaborating on with some women, and then hoping for a feature. That's my next goal. I would love to get my first indie feature off the ground in the next 2 years.
And do you think you could collaborate with someone then for that? I mean, if writing is not where you are right now, you're DPing. How do you think that feature film would come about? I mean, the network is so vital to this industry, isn't it? So
it is.
And it's leaving all the doors open all at the same time.
Yeah.
What's your dream? What's your bucket list for those productions?
I would love to think my bucket list production would be a production where we have enough money to create a world of our own. Something like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. I love these grand fantasy scales that have to do with, it could be with family dynamics, generational trauma, like Parasite, or, one woman is succeeds in fighting through the journey that she's going through. So I would love to work on a grand scale fantasy one day. I would also love to work on a period piece that's has incredible set design and production design. I just love falling into these worlds and creating within the world. So that's a dream project I'd love to work on one day.
That's a great bucket list. I'm always so curious now because the conversation invariably comes to AI when we talk about so many aspects of the business. How do you feel about it?
Man, I think it's really easy to feel suffocated by it and like there's no way to stop it. I don't want to see it taking away our jobs in our creative fields. I think I have blind hope for society that will stand against really exploitative companies that use AI to take away our jobs. This week made it harder to have that hope, unfortunately. But at times I can feel really scared of not knowing what the future holds in terms of AI. But on some ends, I have hope that we'll push against it and there'll be a brighter future where we just use it for a tool in our career field and it won't dismantle the world. It's hard to know. It's a scary thing to think about, but I try to remain hopeful.
I guess it would have its place if it would do the chores, right? Like mow the lawn and wash the car and, stuff like that. Then it would have a good place.
That would be great. Yeah, if they could just do the dishes,
yeah,
that's fine. But we have enough science fiction films and theorizing and hypothesis of what the future of AI could hold for the human race for me to not want to support it and where it's going. So I'm just hoping out for society and humans to see how detrimental it'll be if we go the dark route. But only time will tell. I can only live in today, as we were talking about, and control what I can control.
Are you an optimistic person?
I would say I'm a pretty optimistic person. I do. I've gone through a lot in my life, and my partner and I have gone through a lot in our relationship, and we've gone through it, and we've only gotten through it through the love for each other and the hope for the future. And this career path, especially for women and for myself, is a scary one, just being a freelancer. And you kind of need this blind hope that your next job will come. So innately, I tried to be an optimistic person because it just helps me get through the day.
I think we should call this episode Hope.
That sounds great.
Christina, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast and share your story with us and your hope.
Chris, thank you for having me. I love to talk about all the things. It's been great talking to you.
And if you scroll down the show notes, you'll find a link to Christina's website, her social media, and also to her IMDb profile. You'll also find our email address there too, as well as our link to social media. So I do hope you'll give us a follow and, of course, tell anyone you think who might enjoy the show. And as always, we love to hear from you if you'd like to drop us a DM on Instagram or make any suggestions for guests, because we're coming to the end of season 2 and I'm already starting to book guests for season 3, which will launch in 2025. My thanks again to my guest this week, Christina Dobre, and to you for listening. I'll be back next week with another episode of Art, so I do hope you'll join me then.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So, while ice skating for 2 is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta holiday market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.